Everybody, welcome back to Make It Last. I am so glad that you can join us this Saturday morning. And I've got a great show for you today because, people go into the situation of trying to figure out what to do with an estate planning attorney, where to find one. And then often they're kind of left to their own devices of trying to figure out exactly who to work with. So I'm going to share with you the secret to finding a really great estate planning attorney. And I hope that you can take this and kind of help yourself get set up, make sure all your ducks in a row. So we're going to hit that in today's show. But before we get started, I'm actually trying out some new equipment. Now, those of you that are listening live or listening on the podcast are really not going to hear any difference. Same microphone, same production value, so on and so forth. But because we've begun to stream this as a video show that you can watch if you wanted to, I got a little self-conscious about the earphones that I was using. I was using these old headphones. They were large, and I thought, well, maybe we can come up with a little something better for people to listen to. And so we did. We came up with these little earphones that they go directly into my ear, and I stopped looking like Princess Leia with the Danishes on the side of her head, which looked really odd with my closely shaven head. And now I've got these little earphones on. So I'm excited to try these out. It's a new feel. It's a little weird on the recording side of it, but you should hear nothing different. And by the same token, you should absolutely see something different if you liked watching it. And by the way, if you are interested in watching the show or sharing a video version of the show, we have a YouTube channel. And so if you go onto YouTube and search for Make It Last with Victor Medina, you will be able to see all of the prior episodes, which weren't really video feeds. They were just kind of like a static image of our audio feed. But since I think maybe about 5 or 6 episodes ago, all of those are available essentially as video broadcasts, and give you an opportunity to share that with a friend. Again, YouTube, just go take a look at it. And another way of helping you navigate through this really complicated world of estate planning, legal planning, retirement planning, all the stuff that you are interested in, and making sure that you're doing well. So anyway, before I get any more off track than I already am, so let's talk a little bit about this concept of estate planning attorneys and how to find one. Now, the reason why it can be difficult is because most people aren't going to do this more than once or twice in their lifetime. So if they're going to go out and do an estate planning, they might do it at like major milestones of their lives. First time that they have a kid. That will be an opportunity for somebody to say, oh, okay, maybe I ought to get a great estate plan together because I'm really worried about what would happen to my kids if I die prematurely, or if something were to happen to me and I needed a guardian, or maybe I don't know how to manage the life insurance that I'm leaving behind, and I want to make sure that there's a great plan in place for them. So that'd be like a milestone where people would look at it. Then people don't really think about it too much for the most of the rest of their lives until they face retirement and essentially their own mortality. When they're at that retirement stage, they say, geez, I'm not going to be around forever. I ought to act like an adult and make sure that this estate plan that I put together tens and tens of years ago, right, actually works when I need it. And so let me go revisit it. And so for some people, it's a very simple process, a very simple set of documents. And for other people, it's a brand new idea because the people who they were when they were 30, 35 years old, having kids and thinking about guardianship, very different than the people that they are in retirement. They've saved more, they have more complexity in their lives. And so at this point in time, it's time to do it again. Now, for most people, that's it. That'll be the last time that they really need to look at their estate planning. And that's the way that most of the general population handles it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about why I think that that's probably not the right way to do things. You want to think about it a little bit more than that. But just taking in terms of generality, people do it once or twice. And so because people don't do it often, not like getting a haircut every once a month, it's very difficult to judge what great estate planning looks like, and specifically what great estate planners look like, great estate planning attorneys. And so people will rely on outside information to make that decision. They might look at referrals that they can get from their financial advisor or from their accountant or from their friends, people like them. They'll judge it based on a reputation in the community. Is this a lawyer that they should reach out to because other people have reached out to them. Just generally, like it's a word of mouth. They're out in the community. They're involved in civic things like that. And so they'll use that as the basis to making the decision. And so because people don't do it often, and because, partly because they don't do it often, and so they're not regularly interacting it, but also because they don't do it often and they can't judge what great planning looks like, many people are lost in trying to figure out what that is. And more importantly, they can't diagnose it after the fact, right? Estate planning, by its definition, only comes into play when you become incapacitated or when you pass away. Right. In both of those circumstances, you're not going to have the first clue what great estate planning, if it worked or not. Like, what was it? It is only based on your family living through that. And I'll tell you that many times we will get new clients from the messes that we're cleaning up on other clients that didn't have great estate planning. And so it becomes important to realize what that all looks like when it's put together, so that you can proactively take control and essentially, kind of make the best decisions in putting an estate plan together. Now, I've got 4 major categories for you to take a look at, and I'm also going to dive a little bit deeper into each of those 4 categories. So we're going to stretch this out a little bit in this show. We're going to spend next segment talking about 2 of them, and the segment after that talking about 2 more of them. And then that way, if you kind of listen in and take some notes and appreciate what we're trying to share here, you'll be able to walk away with a hardcore set of questions to ask and things to check out to make sure that the estate planning attorney that you're going to be working with is really top notch, is really going to get you a plan that works when you need it. Now, I'm going to be borrowing liberally from my own book. And so in my book, I have got chapters about how to select a great estate planning attorney, what mistakes to avoid. And so you get a little preview of that. I'm not going to share everything in the book, but these are things that I've already thought about and things that are, in my opinion, over my career of doing this, super important for folks to pay attention to. And so you listening to this show, watching this show, are going to get a great look at that and a preview of what might else be in the book. Maybe you want to buy the book at the end. I don't know. Anyway, so stick with us. We'll be right back on Make It Last, where we're talking about how to select a great estate planning attorney, and we'll be right back. So welcome back to Make It Last. Today we are talking about how to select a great estate planning attorney. And, when I talk about this topic, people will say to me, well, aren't you kind of setting this all up so that everybody just hires you at the end? Look, yeah, kind of. I mean, we think that we are the best estate planning firm out there based on the way that we do it. But here's the trick. We really can't serve all of the people that need estate planning. There are tons and tons of people who need planning and only one of us. So we take a limited number of clients in per month. And so that's so that we can serve them really well. So even if everybody listens to this and called us, we would not be able to help everybody that's there. We'd be taking the first clients as they come in. And, if you listen to this and you decide that you would like to work with our law firm, and certainly you can contact us and see if you can get in a part of our client base. But because we can't help everybody, even the course of my entire career, I'm not going to be able to help the number of people that need the help. It's pretty easy to share this information and really arm the listeners here to what makes up great planning, so that when they're in a situation where maybe they're not working with us or not having an opportunity to work with us, that they in fact have a way of making sure that they're working with somebody great. And that's really the point of it. So I mentioned before the break that we're going to be talking about 4 different areas that we think are important in kind of selecting a great planner. And then we're going to go deep on those. So let me give you the 4 areas, and we'll talk about the first 2 in this segment, and then we'll kind of pass off the next 2 to the next segment. So the 4 areas that I think that you need to focus on are their qualifications, their process, what they feel about or provide in terms of an ongoing relationship or education, And then finally, their costs and their guarantees. Now, I put those in those order in the book as well as in this show because many people mistakenly put costs first. And when we get to that discussion, I'll help you understand that the cost of estate planning is never just the upfront cost, but it is a spectrum of costs that are associated with estate planning, and you need to know about all of them. You need to really understand, what all of those costs are so that when you are there, you can properly assess what the costs are. So we're going to leave that one for the last. But let's first talk about their qualifications, okay? And so when we think about qualifications, there are a few things that I think are essential. First is that somebody be dedicated exclusively to the area of estate planning. Too often estate planning looks like an additional service that you provide as a general practitioner. Like if you do home closings, or if you fight traffic tickets, or if you argue with your neighbor about where the fence should be, then you can also write a will. And the reason why people accept that and why lawyers attempt to do it that way is because bad estate planning is essentially form filling, right? That's the wrong way to do it. But because people accept that that might be the way that it's done, or because practitioners accept that that's the way that it's done, people see that as being a indication of just what average estate planning looks like, normal estate planning looks like. And the truth, it couldn't be further from the truth, because unlike a scenario where you can be there to guide whether or not the planning is working when you need it, in estate planning, as we mentioned, by definition, you have no idea whether or not the plan worked. You're incapacitated. You've passed away. You don't know. So one of the things you want to make sure is that your estate plan is being done by somebody who focuses exclusively in this area. You want to make sure that this is their sole source of business when they get their when they do their legal services, because it will indicate that they are immersing themselves in this area so that they can see all of the different kinds of plans. When they go right and when they go wrong, they can see the entire spectrum of planning from when you began to when you need your planning. And so we want to think about, within those qualifications, making sure that people are focusing exclusively in estate planning. And I would probably take it one level beyond that, which is that estate planning, when you focus just in estate planning, many times you're a tax planner. You might want to find somebody that focuses on elder law planning and then does all estate planning as well, just kind of traditional estate planning. And the reason why I think that the elder law is an important distinction is because it makes sure that they're dealing with the living consequences of what happens just as you get older. So if you just kind of focus on estate planning, you're going to do great tax planning. But if you focus on elder law planning, you're going to meet real people right where they are in the crises that come up from time to time and helping them manage that. And so the elder law person is focusing on how to deal with a spouse that's coming up with dementia. Well, when you meet somebody, you might not know whether or not that's going to happen, but you want to put a plan in place in case it does. You want to be thinking about it proactively so that when you're in that situation, the plan already contemplates the idea that this might happen. And that's, I think, a good distinction in terms of figuring out where to put estate planning in the, how to figure out who's going to be great. So if you focus on the elder law component, many times people who are focusing exclusively on elder law know what it's like to actually use a plan when it comes up. And so you can ask questions that are related to that, like how many plans do you do a year? In my firm, we do somewhere between 150 and 200 plans a year. On the one hand, that's a number that is enough to see all kinds of circumstances. On the other hand, it's small enough that we know each of our clients. We're not doing thousands of plans, at least not, in what we see, right? So looking at what they focus on and how many plans they do is definitely a way to check their qualifications. The next thing that we want to kind of talk about or think about is their process. And I've actually kind of run a little long on this segment, warming up to it. So let's do this. Let's take a break here. And what we'll do is when we come back, we'll hit the last three. We'll hit the process, the ongoing relationship, and the costs and the guarantees. So that way you have all of those four things that I think are important when you focus on, getting a really great estate planning attorney. So we'll be right back on Make It Last, where we're talking about estate planning and figuring out great estate planning attorneys. Stick with us. Bye-bye. All right, welcome back to Make It Last. We're talking about how to get a great estate planning attorney. And, last segment we talked about their qualifications. And you'll note, I really didn't focus a lot on where did they get their law degree from, and because that stuff I don't think is super important. There can be designations that people get, but I think if you, as a kind of general consumer, just focus on how many plans they do a year and whether or not they focus on estate planning, and elder law specifically, you'll get a good idea about whether or not they have the qualifications to handle your plans. Now let's focus on the three other things, which is their process, their attitude towards an ongoing relationship, and their costs and the guarantees. Now, what you want in a great estate planning attorney is a process where they are capturing the unique part of what you need in your plan, and their process is built to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So the reason why I'm kind of focusing on this is that you don't want to meet with somebody that doesn't have a process in place to ask you the questions to solicit where the holes might be. If you meet with somebody and all they're doing is asking you for names and percentages, then you're working with somebody that's a form filler, and that person is just basically putting your name where somebody else's name was, and that's not great. So we want to find somebody that is, not making something from whole cloth every single time. There's a process that's in there that has been well thought through, that is about making sure that we've captured everything and that nothing slips through the cracks. But we don't want it so rote that all we're doing is what a computer could do to fill it out. It has the benefit of having somebody that is thinking about it strategically, that can capture that. And so within that process, you want to think about, how long does it take? How many meetings are set up? Are those meetings set up already? What percentage of your plans are customized to a client besides the names and the distributions? And what systems do you use to make sure that your plans are error-free? In our practice, we have a 4-meeting process, and that 4-meeting process was designed around making sure that we have first educated a client to make a great decision about what to do with their estate planning, then meeting again to set the strategy and capture the information so that we can make a customized plan. Next meeting is signing a plan and make sure the client understands it. Next meeting is integrating the finances so that we figure out that this castle that we've built has got the right stuff in it. And so that meeting process, that 4-meeting process, has been arrived over my 15-year career. We're seeing what works and what doesn't, and making sure that we have given enough opportunity for customization without necessarily losing the benefits of having a process, that is repeatable, that is something that people can rely on, and knowing that it arrives in an error-free set of documents. And so that's our process. And you want to be making sure that somebody's got a process, and then determining whether or not you think that process really set them up to be successful. But I think that even having a process probably distinguishes most planners from others. If you have somebody that you meet with and you don't know exactly when you're going to be done with your plan, that's an indication that maybe that this person doesn't do it often enough, or they don't have a process that helps them get an error-free set of documents. When you sign up with our planning, you know exactly when those 4 meetings are. You can predict with certainty when your plan will be done, and we can predict when we will get done and have the plan perfect because again, this is part of a process that we have designed and refined over the years. Now, when you get to the other parts of the planning, specifically like ongoing relationship and cost and guarantees, a lot of that dovetails back into the process. So for us, we maintain a client maintenance program where we're seeing people regularly to make sure that the plan that we put in place whatever year, 2018, is still as good in the year 2020 when we're out there, and we do that in a cost-effective way. So the process that sets up the planning dovetails into a process for updating and maintaining the plan. And we really focus on this idea of constant improvement on the plan. We always want to be in updating mode to make sure that it is tweaked and really refined to make sure that any changes in the tax laws, any changes in the state of the art of planning, like what is good planning, are all captured not just for the newest clients, but for the clients that have been with us the longest. And that part of the ongoing relationship is very important to us because it makes sure that we stand behind the plans that work when we need them, and education is built into that. We do quarterly education seminars, and we do, every other week we send out a newsletter with something in it. We believe that this show is a form of our ongoing education and what we're doing with our clients. Some of our best listeners out there are our existing client base. And so we want to make sure that, those ongoing relationships are complementary to what people need. I mean, one of the biggest one of those is offering financial services and making sure that people, whether it's their investment insurance needs, financial planning, whatever it is, who can be serviced at the place that put their plan together, in a way that has all of the stuff that we've been talking on the show over its history, fiduciary level of attention to what a client needs, and best in class and everything that we're picking out. All of those things I think are related together into this ongoing relationship. And then kind of when you go to the cost and guarantees, you see, at least in our firm, a continuation of that. And so the four costs of estate planning, very quickly, are the upfront cost, the cost of the asset integration. You're making sure that you've captured everything, basically making sure that you've got your hands around everything, the cost of updating, and then the back end cost of estate administration, kind of what you do after you pass away. Now, if you jumble all those together, those are the costs of estate planning. And most people don't ask about the other three. They only ask about the upfront cost. And within our firm, our process is designed in a way that basically makes it so that we can go all the way through, from beginning to the end at the lowest overall cost. So when we talk about costs and guarantees, something that's a guarantee in our office is that if you are a client maintenance member, which is to say that you've got an updated plan all along the way, we cap our estate administration fees at 1% of the value of the estate. We bill hourly, so in case it's less than 1%, we charge the lower amount. But once we get to 1%, we stop billing. And the reason we're able to do that as well, it's not just like giving a freebie out to the clients like a loss leader. No, that's a profitable area for us to do. But the reason why we're able to do that is because we are getting everything set up ahead of time so that when you pass away, the estate administration is just is a setup process. It's already ready to go. But that kind of guarantee is only available because we started with the right process in the beginning, did the ongoing relationship and the maintenance to make sure the plan worked when we needed it, and then we're able to cap those costs on the end. So you're going to want to talk to anybody that you meet to try to figure out, how do they price? Do they price on the basis of flat fee, a percentage of the estate? Do they go hourly? How do they price updates to the plan? Do you start over from the beginning? Do they favor amendments versus restatements of the plan and kind of doing everything over new? And how will your estate be charged when you pass away? In our office, we do a flat fee up front. We offer a flat fee for maintenance, and that flat fee is usually 10% of the overall value of the cost of the planning, and it provides a brand new plan every year. So we charge a couple $100 or so for our client maintenance program on an annual basis, and people get a brand new plan every year for that, and we're able to offer that in a cost-effective way because of the way that we've set up the other planning. The process in the beginning sets up the maintenance, and then obviously it sets up the back-end cost. And so you're going to want to talk to somebody about all three of those costs. In our entire system, our entire strategy and structure around a relationship is about making sure that we've brought people into our client family, deal with them as family for the length of their life, but what they have with us, so that when we need this plan, we're in a position to use the best plan possible, that it works when we need it. Everything is centered and designed around that. Everything is centered and designed around bringing peace of mind to somebody so that when they face one of these crises, they're either going to die or they're going to get sick or both. And so, when they face that, their families are in a position to reap the benefits of their good planning by making things straightforward, making things efficient, making it easy to kind of go through this and not having to add a layer of the complexity of kind of dealing with an estate on top of essentially all of the complexities of, dealing with grief and the other health crises that can come. And so if we can position ourselves to do that with somebody, really set ourselves up to get them in a position where their plan works when they need it, now we know that the plan will work, and that's where our greatest level of service is. So just to recap before we wrap up, remember we've got 4 areas for you to use to evaluate whether or not you're going to be working with a great estate planning attorney. You're going to want to look at their qualifications, which is essentially, do they focus on estate planning, specifically in elder law? How many plans a year do they do? You're going to look at their process, and within their process, is it a process that allows them to set up the most customization with the least chance of error? Has this been thought through? Then we've got our ongoing relationship. How many of your areas of your life are they capturing in what they have with their planning? And, are they doing things to make sure that you're up to date with the changes along the way? And then finally, costs and guarantees. What is it up front? What is it to maintain? What is it on the back end? And how are you making sure that everything is at the lowest overall cost? So I hope that helps you out when you're in this area. If this is a show that you have liked, please, please, please share this show with other people. You can send them the show link. You can have them subscribe to the podcast. We're available on Spotify, or you can go to our YouTube channel and watch the video, and you can share that with them as well. If you got any ideas for any show tips and topics, just send them along the way. And otherwise, I'm going to be back. Coming up in the next few weeks, we're going to have few guests. I'm really excited about them. People doing innovative stuff in this area. And I'm going to share with you people that are capturing people's stories. Someone who's in charge of the activity center of an assisted living facility and bringing new ideas to that. Really excited to show you that one as well. And those will be coming up in the next upcoming weeks. So until then, thank you for joining us on Make It Last, where we help you keep your legal ducks in a row and your financial nest egg secure. Catch you next Saturday. Bye-bye.